Good evening. It's the phenomenal STEMist. Thank you so much for joining. I have with me Glen Harrington. Glen, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Glad I could participate.
Yeah. Glen has his associates in engineering, electronics, and electronics engineering technology. He is a test engineer for Kratos Defense Security. He got his associates in engineering technology from Valencia College. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Welcome thank you for joining me on Phenomenal STEMits. I'm gonna get right into it, Glen. When did you fall in love with your discipline? When did you fall in love with your discipline?
I fell in love with my discipline basically after I graduated. I knew I wanted to work in electronics. My first job was an internship, turned permanent. I ended up working there for 10 years. But when I first graduated and going to the job, I started starting into the career, I was kind of shocked by how much school I had done and how much I did not know. But I had a manager who was willing to sit down with me and actually teach me and show me and expose me to different areas of the discipline. And once I started working on this one design, and he actually asked me, "Do you really want to be on this design stuff?" And I said, "I want to try it, and I'd like to see something I've created, and I want to see it work." And from that point, after I saw the first set of lights flash and I was able to control them and automate it, it was just amazing. And from that point, I just fell in love with it. I believe it right now.
Wow. So after you got your degree, your associate's degree, you felt a little bit unprepared because you didn't have as much preparation for it, but you got an internship, an awesome opportunity to do an internship that turned permanent. And so you got a lot of on-the-job training. And when you actually started working in your field and your first experience of building something and watching it work, excited you?
Well, absolutely. It just clicked. And once that light came on, I haven't turned back since. And I can't see myself in anything different.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, engineers, people who have degrees in engineering or technology, they like to, last week, I like to take things apart and put it back together and watch it work. And so parents with sons, if you see that in your child, you need to give them opportunities as early as possible to start working with those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have two boys, and right now they are both on the engineering track. And Cameron, the oldest, is a sophomore now, but one's a junior. He's going to be finishing up his engineering program at Winterford High School. So they started since they were well before middle school.
Yeah. You hear that, parents? Well before middle school. You gotta start getting them involved in that stuff early, putting their hands on things and making their light bulb shine just earlier. Like for Glen, he didn't get that experience till after he started working. And thank God he did. But how many of our sons don't have that opportunity? But if you give them the joy of it at 8, 9, 10, oh my God, they're gonna shine. They're gonna shine. They're gonna go farther than us. That's what we're here for, to make our kids go further than us. So put these things in their hand, give them opportunities. Okay, so number 2, what tools did you use to discipline yourself while you were in college?
At first, I wasn't even interested in going to college, honestly.
Okay.
Growing up, I wanted to be a truck driver. Why? I don't know, but that was my thing. I prepared myself to do that. Unfortunately, it kind of worked out for me now that at 18 years old, I couldn't drive trucks cross country. So what purpose is it going to do me? So I went to the military, eventually moved to Florida, and truck driving thing, it would have worked, but considering I'm looking for a family, looking to settle down, that's not that kind of lifestyle.
Right.
I decided to go to school, and while I'm in school, I kind of wasn't prepared because, again, wanting to be a truck driver, college there's no need for college at that point. So going into college, I think one of my biggest struggles was just getting prepared for college.
Okay.
Which was a dagger, and even when I talk to different youth in preparation, even if you're not sure if you're going to go to college or not, prepare yourself for it. If you don't want to go to college, prepare yourself for it, because the one thing, I ended up wasting probably 2 semesters getting ready for college while I'm in college. And it's such a dagger, because there's so much that I could have accomplished in those 2 semesters that I had to put on hold in trying to get prepared. So, and then you're looking at how my children are prepared now. My oldest son, and probably the youngest as well, probably will go to college. We're halfway done with their AA degree.
Dual enrollment.
Dual enrollment his junior year. He only needs 4 classes after this school year to graduate. So, I mean, just being prepared. I mean, he's going to his college algebra classes as a junior in high school.
That's amazing.
I can just prepare myself.
But you see the beauty of that, Glenn? This is beautiful to see. Black men, you see yourself as unprepared yourself, but you then had 2 sons, and you said, you know what? I wasn't prepared for college. I wasted 2 semesters in college because if you're not prepared, if you're saying in your mind in high school, I don't care about college, I don't care about this SAT, I don't care about this ACT, and you start taking these tests and you don't score well on these tests, they're going to tell you you're not ready for college. You're going to take introductory, developmental math and developmental reading. So your first 2 years or 2 semesters, you're paying for classes that don't even count towards college, and who knows where you could be. And that sets you back. So like you had to learn how to study and how to be a good student in college. That made you great. But then you said to yourself, I know where my mistakes were, and I'm not going to make it get repeated in my sons.
Absolutely.
And so that's the beauty of age and wisdom, that if you have children, you then say, okay, I know what happened to me. Let me prepare my children. And this is like, I want you to know, like, every phenomenal studies that I did, Glenn, it was solely for parents to see what they need to do to teach their children what to do. Because many of us, aren't prepared.
Right.
And truly, there's nothing wrong with not being prepared if you learn from your mistakes.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you had to teach yourself how to be in college. Can you give me some examples of what you needed to learn in college to help you become a better college student?
Well, the first thing was I was taking, because I had Spanish lesson. That's a required high school class here in Florida now, but in Louisiana it wasn't a required class to graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And my absolute toughest class I've ever taken in my life. It seems so simple, but if I had prepared myself for college in high school, I would have taken Spanish. I would have taken some foreign languages so that I didn't have to do that once I made it to college, right?
Mm-hmm.
My grades coming out of high school weren't bad.
Right.
And my grades in college weren't bad. But it's just that I wasn't prepared.
Mm.
So getting those, again, taking those classes, remedial, intermediate math, or whatever it was, English, before I can even go to Comp 1, before I can go to college algebra, those classes. Those were generic classes that I could have easily taken in high school that I did not take. And now, in going into college, that was one of the things that I had to learn. Another thing I had to learn was how to study. I mean, I come up from a family who had pretty good genes. So I didn't really study in high school. I made my way through. It was easy, and my thing was, there's no GPA requirement for driving a truck.
Right.
Most people take the exam and pass it while I get a job to keep it moving. I was around it. That's what I was introduced to. That's what I knew. So going into college, I needed to learn how to study again. How to, college is not like high school, where teachers are going to give you assignments and they're going to be on you to turn them in. My sister was 4.0. My older brother was just want to get through high school, just like I did. So going through high school, the teachers knew I wasn't an idiot, but they knew that, okay, well, he's not failing. He's making decent grades, so we're not going to bother too much until they called my parents. And then my parents were like, well, you need to tighten up. But I figured out just what I needed to do in high school to get through, but it wasn't enough to get into college. It wasn't enough built in college.
Yeah.
So if I kept on the track, I just had to learn how to study, what classes I needed to take. Fortunately for me, while I was at Valencia, I worked at Valencia. And I was with students who came to college a semester or two away from graduating, then wanted to declare a major, and had to go back for another 2-3 semesters because they were taking all the wrong classes. Something I had to learn in going into college.
Yeah.
So, well, fortunately, I did know I kind of wanted the engineering thing, and I actually started with my AA, but I just want to get it done with whatever. I can go get a job, take some of that journey. But it was just, once I got into college, it was a matter of preparing myself just to finish it.
Yeah, it's basically you had to, in college is not 13th grade. No. College is not 13th grade, number one. And number two, you had to stay in the know. Hey, Sean, I went to high school with Sean, and he's talking about how he was like that in college as well. Hi, Mom. Thanks for joining. But here's the issue. A lot of the times we don't know. We just say, oh, I'll just come to class and I'll just go to class. That's how high school was. Just go to class, take tests. No, you have to know what you're doing. You have to be in the know. You have to study properly, and then you have to know what classes you have to take to graduate. To your point, there's so many people that are just taking classes, don't know what they need to take. When they finally need to declare, they have to start basically all over again. And back in the days, that was okay, Glenn, because back in the days, financial aid would give money ad infinitum. But now, financial aid will only give to a certain level. If you are past 2 years at a 2-year college, you're going to start paying out of pocket.
Right.
Back in the days, you could get Pell Grants ad infinitum, student loans ad infinitum, but they're like, no, you can't just be in school forever. So if you want to waste the first 2 years, fine. But just know that when you really find out what you want to do, you're paying out of pocket. This is no joke. So you got to be in the know. I like the way you have to study, but then you have to know what you're doing. You have to have a good plan. Okay. So,
to that point you were just making, after you get over a certain amount of credit, I'm actually even going back to finish my bachelor's degree, because I finished my AA.
Mm-hmm.
And now working toward my AA to complete that, because I've already surpassed 120 credit hours. I pay a different price.
Yeah.
So it's not just the fact that you're just taking unnecessary classes, but I already have an AS degree, but they're charging me more just because I'm pursuing something else, and I've already reached that
limit.
That limit, right?
Yeah. That it's not to be messed with. We have to, and I'm glad you're saying that, because we have to inform people. I feel like a lot of us just don't know. Right. And that's what phenomenal STEM is, is for. We gotta just informing people. Those of you who know, reveal it to people so that they don't make the same mistakes. Like your sons, for instance, they're in dual enrollment. So when it's time for them to go to school, they'll have their associates or very close to their associates. Do you know how many people do that? But how many people color do that? Hardly any, because they don't know. All right. So what were your challenges in school? You kind of talked a little bit about it.
Having enjoyed college.
Say it again.
I enjoyed college. Being an adult away from home, I was into sports a lot, so I was finding to play basketball. I was working on campus, so I was on campus
all the time. Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed it. I think that was kind of a dagger. I really wasn't focused. I knew what my goal was, but I really wasn't really working toward my goal. It was coming too easy at first, being a part of Phi Theta Kappa, that was a big thing for me. So I made look at me, but at the same time, was I really focused on where I was going? And my underachievement, it's all good, but it wasn't really what I needed to be focusing on while I was in college. You know, I really needed to be focused on my grades and what I really wanted to accomplish in the end. You know, I started dating. Of course, you know, that could go here and there, right? That was a big thing. But as far as my academics, it really wasn't an issue. It really, you know, the one thing I would preach is time management. You know, really knowing what you want to do and being serious about whatever that goal may be. That's what I can't preach that enough.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk on one of yours about how focused you were on your academics and you were just study. And I just never, that was a discipline I didn't gain in high school. You know, I made good grades, but I didn't have to be disciplined to make those grades. And going to college, I didn't have that discipline. So my biggest challenge was focusing on what I needed to be doing at the moment. You know, I was procrastinating. Another one of my biggest. I knew I could study the night before, a couple nights before. I knew I'd make the grade. I knew I would do just enough to do what I need to do to pass that class. Or, you know, I wanted to make B, so a B was sufficient for me.
Yeah.
Now, looking back at it, I knew if I had prepared myself at the day I got the syllabus up until that next exam, the next assignment, everything would have been a lot better.
Yeah, so you had issues with discipline and focus, and you had a lot of things on your plate. That's a common issue, and unfortunately, many of our students can get caught up with that. And there's nothing wrong with doing multiple things. You know, being well-rounded is very important, but when it affects your grades, then that's the issue. And unfortunately, too many people feel like, oh, I'm good, it's a B. Like I tell my students, I say, listen, until you start crying over B's, until tears start to flow with B's, you will always be above average and not phenomenal. Right? Phenomenal and excellence require dissatisfaction with above average. Right. Yeah. And so when you realize that it's going to take a lot of discipline to get those A's, and sometimes you don't really need the A's. I'm not even like necessarily a proponent that everybody has to get A's, but in STEM though, a lot of the times to be competitive, you do. And so in order to get that, you have to have heavy amounts of discipline. And so those were your little bit challenges. It's funny, majority of my interviews were Black men because I'm trying to get more Black boys to see Black men in STEM fields. And that was a common challenge. Distractions. Yeah. So
I started working at one point, and I was working more than I really needed to. That was the thing. And I didn't really have to. I had the GI Bill, so my school pretty much paid for it.
Right.
So, just when you get caught up in just enjoying life, and that was the big thing, you know. You know, playing basketball, come out once in a mall. You know, I didn't have a car for the most part, but I found. I mean, I needed money. I felt like I needed money, and I really did. I was just trying to expedite life. You know what I was trying to do. And now, if I could go back and do it over, I do it 10 times.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah. I lived on Oakwood's campus. And I would just get a ride to Walmart maybe once a week. I just lived on the campus. I didn't see Huntsville. Like I'm discovering Huntsville now when I'm renting a car to drive for alumni weekend. Like I don't know any place. I'm like, and everybody's laughing at me because it took 20 years for me to discover Huntsville, Alabama, because I was never off the campus. Different people have different journeys, but you're learning that you don't really need what you think you need.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And then another thing to the GPA, and this is something that I learned the hard way. If you can't go to Lockheed Martin with a 3.5, a lot of times they're not even going to talk to you. 3.5, and there's some areas with 3.0, some jobs 3.0, at least a 3.0, and then a 3.0 with some specialty.
Right.
They want to. So that's one of the areas that I don't live in regret, but if I could do it differently, that's one thing I would change. Make sure that I can actually go out and compete in those guys. same thing to the table as I do.
Okay, you heard that, guys. So to be competitive, A's count. To be competitive, 3.5 is a good GPA. And so you have to have more than the 3.5. That means you have to have straight A's pretty much. 3.8, a 3.8, 3.9. That's basically saying A's and A minuses, maybe 1B here and there to be competitive. And I mean, the beauty is that you can have all kinds of fields. Hey, Brother Mitchell and Pedro, a lot of guys are on today. Appreciate it. You have a job, and I'm sure you're enjoying your job. So it's not like you're a failure. But if you want to work at places like Lockheed Martin and places like Siemens and that are very competitive for engineers, you're gonna have to get those A's. And in order to do that, you have to be disciplined. Things that you think matter don't matter. I never forget. It's one of the people, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he was talking about every week the best party, the party that could not be missed was happening. You know, every single week. Oh, this is going to be the end all be all. You know, and you look back at it and you were like, that was such a waste of time. Absolutely. Absolutely. Throw these A's party. Hey, A's parties. All right. So tell me what you do now and what are your challenges?
What I do now is as a test engineer, I'm responsible for testing simulator. I work with simulators. So the simulator I'm working on is Chinook helicopter. And basically it's a crew trainer. So basically they're testing in the Army, they're actually right up in their testing program while they're in school. They're learning how to troubleshoot the aircraft. And so the company I work for has actually built a model. Well, they have a real full-blown Chinook helicopter in the Bay, and they take and introduce different types of faults and different types of issues that may arise in the helicopter, basically.
Mm-hmm,
and we do is my job to make sure that it performs, the test phase of it performs the way it's written.
Right.
So and we did that with the design, the whole system to duplicate all the function, a lot of the functions in a lot of the navigation systems and on the aviation systems. And then from that, the soldiers are taught in this helicopter. So basically it simulates a lot of the faults and failures that the soldiers would actually experience when they're actually in the field.
Okay, so you work in the defense industry, which most engineers, whether it be software engineering, electronic engineering, mechanical engineering, majority of the jobs are in the defense industry, right? Yeah. So you work for Kratos Defense and Security and as a test engineer for, like, that's a little specific, right? That's just like a simulator on just a helicopter. That's your job. Is that how engineering is, where, like, in terms of jobs, you focus in on something and then you just hammer at it?
Well, this was a little bit different. In most cases, I'm actually designing electronic, basically a full automated piece of test equipment.
Okay.
So I would, in this particular case, this one doesn't have much automation because I want to say it's manual, a lot of manual testing, but it's more so a piece of software that's running a lot of the faults. So the instructor would basically introduce a fault, and the soldiers would have to go through and try to find where that fault is, just like as if they were seeing a real Chinook helicopter. This is slightly different from most of my experience. Most of my experience, I'm actually doing electronic circuit development,
okay,
right, where developing my own schematics, doing mechanical design. So, and one of the reasons I gravitate toward test is because I do get a chance to touch many disciplines, not just electronics, where my degree is, but I can touch a lot of software and mechanical design as well.
Okay.
In many cases, I might end up having to go back in the lab or in the workshop and design and cut things on my own. So, and then you know, in a high budget particular program, then I might outsource it and have other people make it. But a lot of times, I actually develop it on my own.
Wow.
All the software, I would have to write all the software, all the electronic design, all the schematics. They repeat every transistor, resistor, capacitor, IC, whatever you want to, whatever it requires. A lot of times, I would have to create and figure out what those components may be.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
what I'm normally used to doing.
Okay. And I want you to understand, guys, this is, I love this in that, you came out of the Army, you went to a community college, got an associate's degree in this electrical engineering technology, and you were able to come straight out and get a good job via an internship, though. So you have to learn how to network to get that opportunity and get on-the-job training. Hey, guys. Hey, Pedro and Malcolm. I hope you have your sons watching this. Miss Charles, thanks for joining. But yeah, so, and you're just putting your hands all in this. So just like your first love, like you said, you had your first love earlier, by getting that internship and watching things work, you're like learning totally new technologies and software.
Yeah. You have to make motors turn, lights flash, and I don't have to tell it to do it. I've created the original software. I've created the circuit that will determine when the motor's supposed to turn, when the light is supposed to turn on, when it's supposed to turn off, and just introduce different sensors and different elements that are built within the instrument or device that I've created that will do it on its own. So it's really nice where it's automated to the point where I don't have to sit there and watch it do what I need it to do. You can make it happen. I can just make it happen. Most of the equipment I've designed has been automated. So I don't have, once I put my thought process into it from the beginning, and once it's concluded, I can push go for the most part, and it's going to do everything I wanted to do, needed to do on its own, make decisions on its own. And I just stand watching it. At the end, maybe have to print out a report, or may have to push a few buttons where I can get a status or an update of what took place. But for the most part, most of the equipment can stand alone on its own. Yeah, and then you can feel the greatness of building it. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If your sons like to take apart stuff, teach them that they can make things, they can build things, and they can make things work. Okay. So your challenges. What are your challenges? Challenges most of the time being in the test industry, in the test part of engineering, is projects that are, I don't say not budget friendly, but in many cases when we go out and bid for a particular project, everybody, mechanical guys, the electrical guys, the software guys, everybody bid and put their 2 cents in. It's so-called these many hours, this much money to build a project. Unfortunately, being on a test side, I don't get the product till the very end. So my biggest challenge is getting to my part of the project, and there's no money left. And then man hours have already been expended or reduced significantly, where the design that we have come up with in the process of R&D, I'm left over with the scraps. And trying to make, if I bid 35,000 hours on a project, and I get in with 15,000, it's a big problem. Because now I'm trying to make something happen with no money, no budget. And so now it really creates it takes a lot of creativity in some cases. Some cases you can go back to the drawing board and explain the case, but in many cases, once the budget is set, and you just have to get very creative. Especially with these government contracts. Especially government contracts. Yeah. And so sometimes you're forcing with government. So government plays both ways. Sometimes you're forcing where they would go back and kind of renegotiate the contract and it'll work out to your advantage. But and I've seen the same thing in the commercial world, and it plays both ways. But I've seen it where just being on the test side, all the money's already spent before you can even get started on your part of the project. That's one of the largest challenges I've seen. But for the most part, just being in the discipline, it really requires a lot of creativity because in many cases you have a tight budget. So, but the tight budget and dealing with the issues of that, as well as everybody gets their piece before you, and now you have to be creative with the scraps. Right. That can be frustrating. It can be very frustrating, but at the same time, I like challenges. I'm an athlete, so I like to compete. Right. So it makes me own that part of it. I really want to say I can do it even with no budget or in a restricted budget. And I can say that I've been pretty successful.
Okay.
And sometimes, in many cases, a lot of times when we did it the simplest route. But it doesn't necessarily always be the cheapest route.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's some competitive edge in you.
Oh, absolutely. Don't tell me it can't be done. You tell me that, or you tell me I can't do it within a certain amount of time.
Watch me work.
Watch me work. Right, exactly. I do my due diligence to not bring work home. I believe in going to the office and doing what I have to do at the office, and when I come home, I have to do it at home. So I'm pretty good at that. But sometimes, I will get up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to go and get started on my day and then do a 13-hour day.
Yeah.
Sometimes it requires that. So it requires, but that's where I've learned more discipline. Just having to stick to a budget, having to stick to a schedule to make things.
So yeah, you were saying you didn't have it in college, but by the time you out of college, you have it now.
Oh, absolutely.
You're gonna have to learn it sometime.
Yeah, especially in a previous job, I had a big budget project where I had to manage budget, schedule, and then had to do all of the design. I was the only test engineer on this particular project. So my manager asked me, Glenn, can you do it? I had never managed budget before. Most of the time, there's a program manager or a project manager who has to deal with all of that. And she's like, well, I don't have time to manage the budget. I don't have time to do this. I need you to get it all coded. I need to make sure that you get the different companies in here, interview them, make sure that they can do the job and they can do it in a timely fashion. Get them qualified, get them certified to be on our approved vendor list. So I had to do all that as part of me working on one particular project. It was kind of annoying because I didn't go to school for this.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to do engineering. I wanted to design it and make it work. But I owned it, and I finished below budget. I finished ahead of schedule.
Wow.
And it works. It works. That's the part that the satisfaction is when other managers say you can't do it, it won't happen. You can't meet schedule. You can't do it for that price. And I made it all happen.
Yeah. Glenn, it's looking back, look at yourself. Look at you. You're like, I don't even want to go to college. I want to drive a truck. This is right. This is what you're saying. And then you're now managing budgets and overcoming people's low expectations of you.
Absolutely.
Isn't that beautiful to see a process? And how many of our children may have different expectations from themselves when they're young, but if we just feed into them to say, no, you can do more. And I'm not insulting truck drivers out there, not at all. But
I still want to do it.
Yeah, I still want to do it.
Going from a different angle.
Okay. But yeah, you have a different mindset with it. It's you want to own, you want to control rather than be controlled, and that's all I'm saying. Yeah. All right. So lastly, tell me your favorite part of your career. What's the favorite part of your career?
Completing a project. I mean, there's more gratifying than spending 6 months, a year and a half working on one project. I mean, many people say, how do you do the same thing every day, all day? But it's not the same thing, though. It's so many different phases of a project, especially you have to design all the hardware. You have to get printed circuit boards made, and you have to get order parts, all the procurement aspects of it. And then you have all that stuff going on in one part, and then you have to get all the software together. And sometimes I might start writing software and don't even know if all the hardware that I put together works, or how all the hardware is going to work together. So it's really gratifying when you can actually complete a project. And another thing is when especially like I was mentioned earlier, when I'm working on a restricted budget, limited budget, all the man hours or all the budget's already been expended before I even put my hand on it. It's really satisfying and gratifying to be able to do something with nothing.
Wow.
But it's really, especially my biggest thing is when somebody says, well, we've tried to do it for years and it wouldn't work, and we can get it to work, and like, I don't understand how you can, when all the information is there, and you just need to sit down and formulate a plan basically on how to achieve whatever that one task was. I had one job where they had this piece of machinery that I was responsible for. They had it for 17 years. They bought it in 2000. And it was one function that they needed desperately, but the people that sold them the system said it couldn't be done. They spent many hours trying to do it, said it couldn't be done. And I'm like, all the information you need is right here. So why can't you just do it? Why won't you just do it? Then you can't, it's impossible. And I was able to, in 30 minutes,
Wow.
they couldn't do it 17 years.
Wow.
Complex, but it just required a different approach, a different thought process. So things like that, when they say it can't be done, or when your back is up against the wall, whether it's time or money, being able to complete a project with those limited resources.
You're a creator, man. That's coming from a creative spirit. Like, I want to, with some things that seem impossible or nothing, and then now I take it and create something out of it. That's a creative spirit. And if you see that in your child, you need to push them towards, degrees that require a STEM major, or at least give them an opportunity to try it, because you'll see that they'll just flourish in those kind of, like, I'm not a creator necessarily. Like, I don't see myself doing that. That's why I wouldn't be engineering, right? But people who have that mindset, train them in that field. A lot of us, we like to limit ourselves, especially people of color. It's like, oh, you'll be great in counseling, and you have such a great personality, so you would be a great pastor. Or they like to, especially African Americans in STEM. Like, have you considered the social fields? And meanwhile, these kids are creators.
Right. I look at, expose my children to what I do.
Yeah.
And they are already on the path of their creation.
Yeah.
They start doing different things that they are creating on their own, and I coach them. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to teach them the theories of visual electronics. They may not get it, but the core part of the basis of it is, anybody would understand.
Right.
So I expose to those little things now. Even my 11-year-old, 2 years ago, he was already working on his own design for something else. Dad, we got to come up with something. Maybe even right now we have this project we've been working on for a while, and it's my fault that we haven't completed it yet, but they have things that they are working towards and they are engaged in the STEM field. Yeah. And right now, going into middle school, they already knew that they wanted to go into engineering school. I did not put a brick to their head and say, this is what you better do. I exposed them.
You exposed it to them. Yes. Yes. And then their creative energy and spirit just came out. Yeah.
And sometimes, of course, after I worked all day and then chasing them out all their athletic endeavors and things of that sort, I come home, I have dinner, homework, and all of those stuff to get set for them. But I had this idea. How can we build this? How can we build that? And it's not even just on the electronic side. They're looking at the software side. And even in elementary school, my son was in a coding class.
Coding.
Just little things, exposing them to how to be creative in software, how to develop things electrically. Things that they may, of course, I know a lot more than they know, but I'm exposing them. And then where they ask questions, I try to answer those questions on their level.
Right.
And keep them motivated, keep them wanting and hungering for these little things, so that now it's not even my sixth grader. He's engineering track.
Right.
Going into middle school. His math, he's taking 7th grade math in 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
But that exposed, and so that when he goes to high school, he's already taken college. He's already taken college hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the big thing, I think, and it's just for for school or almost anything we do, is exposing our children to different things, not boxing them in so that they're limited to only what they see their friends do.
Right. Or what they think they like.
Right.
Or what you know. Like, expose them past what you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if they told me they want to be doctors, I'm okay with that, because I know even with them wanting to be a doctor, they are still on their way because of what has already been instilled in their education, in their academics to this point. So they know the standard hasn't changed, it won't change.
Yeah. The standard is being excellent.
Absolutely.
That's the standard.
And I'm proud to say my 10th grader after this school year will need 4 classes to graduate from high school, and he has a 4.36 GPA.
Awesome. Shout out to Cameron.
Exactly. So, and then, you know, I talk to, he plays high school sports, and talking to other parents, and he's in a position that their kids aren't in. So, of course, I'm a proud father. Yeah. So,
yeah.
But me and his mom prepared them when they were younger.
Right.
Exposed them when they were younger, so that going into kindergarten, first grade, multiplication was already there.
Are you hearing me, guys?
I mean, going into kindergarten, he knew his multiplication.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
children should be knowing their times tables and knowing how to read by 4 years old. You can learn to read at 3. You can teach your kids to read early. Like, their language skill development is strong at that age. If anything, that should be mastered. I don't even focus heavily on STEM at that age. I focus heavily on reading and mathematics in terms of times tables, numbers. Reading and numbers. Get it into them. 3 years old, you could be reading. So when you're in kindergarten, when I was in kindergarten, I was reading to the kids. I was teaching children how to read at 5 years old. Why? Because I learned to read at 3. You can read early.
You do your child a disservice when you don't allow them to be the sponges that they are.
Yes. Say it again. You do a disservice to your children when you don't allow them to be the sponges that they are. Absolutely. Wow, I love that. That's a quote right there. I'm gonna steal that.
Yeah, and both my children going into kindergarten, first grade, they read on third grade level, and math on the third grade level.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why not? And we weren't like pushing them and beating them to learn these things. They were just exposed to it.
And they love it at that age. They're sponges. They take it all in. But a lot of the times it has to do with the discipline of the parent. The parent has to say, this is very important. Even if it's past my level, I'm going to push it in my child. Or I'm going to find somebody. Shout out to Phenomenal STEMist. I'm going to find somebody to push it in my child. You feel me? That's so important, guys. I have a good amount of joiners today. Thanks, you guys, for joining. Glenn, this was an awesome conversation. I think this was heavily parent focused. I thank you so much for being a part of this interview. I am the Phenomenal STEMist, and so is this engineer, this test engineer right here. Thank you so much, Glenn. Appreciate it. Good night, guys. Thanks for joining.